Hi, my name is Dr. Fab, and today I'm going to talk about Mamdani's victory. Muslims at large are celebrating his victory as being their victory because he's the first Muslim um, mayor of New York who has been able to gain this victory against all odds. Having said that, I would have been equally excited if he had run as an independent candidate, but he decided to go and affiliate himself with one of the most notorious political parties of US that technically, categorically launched the genocide of Gaza. And we all know Biden launched it, Biden committed it, Biden armed it, Biden facilitated it, gave it 100% diplomatic coverage and support. So honestly, I'm not that excited because I've seen that despite the fact that Ilhan and Rashida have been part of the Democratic Party, part of the US Congress, they have not been able to bring any change in stopping this genocide or stopping it from happening any further. We saw how they tried to stop it and nobody listened to them. We saw how all the resolutions that were processed in favor of this genocide, either by arming Israel or by giving Israel complete support, by funding Israel, they were all literally, they were all totally supported by the Democrats as well as the Republicans. To the point that when Netanyahu came to US recently, and when he came during the tenure of the Democrats as well, he received a standing ovation. So this standing ovation that a war criminal gets from the US Congress, whether it's the Democratic US Congress or a Republican US Congress, means that nothing is going to change as long as these two parties stay in power. And who is making them stay in power? We have always said, oh, it's the deep state actors, but then the deep state actors who are, colluding with these war criminals to reinstate these political parties, who is empowering these deep state actors? I think the American people have to be confronted. We have to acknowledge their role in this genocide openly, publicly. We have been saying, oh, they're not in control. Oh, they don't have anything to do with this. But then I see stadiums full of American people who are literally applauding these war criminal presidents like Biden and like Trump. Trump has committed war crimes. Before him, Biden committed war crimes. And then we all know Bush committed war crimes. Dick Cheney committed war crimes. But we see that in 2003, when Bush committed the war crimes by killing 1 million Iraqis for a lie, and Dick Cheney did that as well, nothing was done by the American people to indict either Bush or Dick Cheney. They were given heroes, literally medals, and there were just some movies, and there were just a little bit of talk that they were not nice and they did this and that and Iraq invasion was not right. But having said that, nothing tangible was done to deter any more war crimes coming out of the White House. And this is why we saw, even during Obama's time in 2014, I still remember that Netanyahu committed a lot of war crimes, tried to invade the territories of Palestine and tried to do heinous atrocities. But other than just a pat on the shoulder and a little bit of you're not supposed to do that kind of a behavior, nothing tangible came out from the White House or from the American people against Netanyahu. And this is on the same lines as nothing happened significantly to stop the war criminals from continuing their agenda of further genocides and further bloodshed in the name of American people on their tax dollars, and also in the name of their so-called democracy and freedom. We all know what the democracy and freedom struggle of the American people did in Iraq in 2003. We all know what happened in Libya. We all know what happened in Syria. So much bloodshed was committed. We all know about the starvation and the famine that happened in Yemen under US presidents' agendas. So many people have been displaced. Millions and millions of people have been displaced from their homes. They've lost their livelihoods. They've lost everything. But nothing tangible legally was done against the war criminals who committed the genocide of Iraq, where 1 million Iraqis lost their lives for a lie. Nothing was done. No sanctions were done, individually or collectively, against the administration of Bush. Nobody categorically held Bush responsible in the International Court of Justice, in the International Criminal Court. Neither was Dick Cheney held responsible or accountable for what he did in Iraq, as a result of which we saw what happened in Syria. We saw what happened in Yemen during Obama's time. We saw what happened in Libya. And then after Obama, Trump came, and he came on the note that he's going to end all wars. But what did he do? We all saw what he did. Nothing was done to stop the deep state, the warmongering, the military-industrial complex. And then what happened after that? Biden came. And then Biden started to launch this genocide, and we have Rashida and we have Ilhan trying their best to stop the genocide, but nobody listened to them. They had no strength, no power to stop the genocide. And I do appreciate their courage and bravery for speaking up in the House of Congress against all odds. But having said that, their voices did not make any difference in the lives of the people of Gaza, whose lives were taken indiscriminately for a crime they never did or committed. And those who took their lives are still walking around as heroes. They get standing ovations. They have still a lot of power, and they still receive arms from US. They still receive funds from US. They still receive total diplomatic support at the United Nations Security Council from US. This is in spite of the fact that the Americans are not supporting this. A majority of the Americans do not stand by what happened to Gaza. But it's only verbal condemnation. I don't see any tangible activity to prove that American people are not standing by Israel anymore. I do not see any of the US presidents who have come by in the last 1 decade or 2 decades. I do not see any of the US presidents who have come by and who have committed war crimes in US get indicted for their war crimes. Whether it was George Bush, whether it was Obama, who did drone kids in Pakistan, in northern areas, and also in Afghanistan and Yemen. You can watch the documentary by Jeremy Scahill. It's a very good documentary about how Obama abused his power to drone children. You didn't do anything about Biden, who committed the genocide, who started the genocide with lies. He said there were 40 beheaded babies. This was a lie on the same lines as the lie of George Bush, who said there were weapons of mass destruction. Nothing was done. Nobody petitioned Biden. Nobody petitioned Bush. They both lied. They both broke the US Constitution. They both enabled a genocide. They tried to justify an invasion into Gaza and previously in Iraq with their lies. And they completely funded and armed both the genocides using the tax dollars of American people. But the American people did not even think about petitioning both these presidents even once. So what happens? Dick Cheney dies and he lives a completely happy life, fulfilled life. Nobody dared to petition him in the US court of law. He broke the US Constitution. Everybody knew about it. But none of the American organizations who are currently working for Gaza, who say they are against Israel, they dared to confront Dick Cheney in the US court. Why wasn't he petitioned? Why wasn't he brought under litigation? Because he did break American law, not just the international law. He was allowed to have a life full of immunity. The only uproar we heard was a little bit on mainstream media, social media, and they made a Hollywood movie about him called Vice. Other than that, there was nothing done to stop this charade of war crimes coming out of the White House. American people have empowered these war crimes by allowing their war criminal American presidents to continue to live a blissful life, a happy life, and the life of a hero after they have killed millions of innocent civilians. So I don't think anything is going to change after Mamdani is elected as the winner of the mayor race. And then the other thing is, let's go a little bit in the past. 1 year ago, more than 1 year ago, when Biden was trying to rerun as president of the United States, he was taken down because there was a concern that he has dementia, and he lost the debate with Trump, the presidential debate. So he was replaced by Kamala Harris, who ran a very successful campaign. She got the most, I would say, the strongest investors anybody could have gotten. She got a lot of celebrities to endorse her. She had the money, she had the powerful people with her, but she lost. She lost because of the Muslims, because Muslims categorically in US decided to not vote for her. They voted for anybody but not her. I voted for Jill Stein, but most of the American Muslims, they did not vote for Kamala. And one of the biggest reasons was that during her entire campaign, she never categorically called the genocide the genocide. She never categorically tried to have a soft corner for the Palestinians who lost their lives in this genocide. She was asked by the Palestinian, pro-Palestine organizations to stage Palestinians on her campaign trail to speak up, to talk about their side of the story, to tell her voters and to tell the world their side of the story. She refused straight away. And the American people responded by not letting her win. And so Trump won. And since Trump won on the basis of this, that he was going to end the genocide and he was going to end the wars, he has completely 100% supported Netanyahu's plans of invasion into Gaza, occupation of Gaza, and destruction of the people of Gaza. To date, we hardly have any aid blockade being undone. Only a third of the aid is allowed to get in. Half of Gaza is currently still occupied by the IDF, and the other half is totally decimated in very bad condition because of all the bombing that Israel has done. And it's just a rubble, it's just ashes. And yet, Trump, on his last Knesset speech, said openly, he hailed Netanyahu as a hero, as a war hero, after he committed a genocide. And he said that he completely supported him every time he called him for any weapon, this weapon and that weapon. He said his so-called peace accord was a victory trophy for Netanyahu. So this is Trump. So in response to Trump's open support for Netanyahu, that forced the American people to not vote for Kamala and now did not let Trump win or his party win, what do we have now? We have the Democratic Party who had a humiliating defeat last year, about the same time, from Trump. They realized that now they have to change the narrative, they have to change their face, they have to change their outlook, they have to do a plastic surgery to hide the cracks of the genocide on their face, to hide the evil on their face, to make people forget that they have committed a genocide of Muslims. So what do? They select a lot of Muslims to run as candidates for their party. And quite a few of them win as well this year in these elections. But does that change the fact that Biden did commit a genocide and killed more than 50,000 innocent civilians of Gaza? No, it does not. It does not change that. And the fact that Mamdani has been brought about as a poster boy of the Democratic Party to rewrite the legacy of the Democrats, to do a plastic surgery of the Democrats so that the Americans can accept them as the so-called pro-peace champions of humanity. They have used Mamdani and the other Muslim candidates as props. But at the end of the day, we do know that George Soros, who controls the Democratic Party, who played a pivotal role in orchestrating this genocide in Gaza, is still the one behind this corrupt political party. And so no matter how many Mamdanis are allowed to win to please the Muslims all over the world, including the people of Gaza, no matter how much Mamdani says on the stage, anti-Israel statements and whatever he says, we know nothing is going to change. The aid blockade is not going to change. The decimation that has happened in Gaza is not going to change. The occupation of half of Gaza is not going to change. It could have only been changed in the last 2 years if the people of Gaza had been allowed to have their right of self-defense as an independent sovereign state. That right was never given to them. Israel today is categorically saying that it does not recognize and refuses to recognize Palestine as an independent sovereign state. We are not even talking about the pre-1967 borders anymore. Now the ideology of Israel is to completely remove Palestine from the map. This was always the plan, and this was done in collusion with the tax dollars of the American people. And what really bothers me is that they have elected Mamdani, but they do not realize that they have not elected Mamdani, they have elected the Democratic Party. They have elected George Soros, who started this genocide. So please, I'm a Muslim, I'm an American Muslim, and I'm telling you, you did not do me any favor. And you're not going to end the genocide by just electing Mamdani. You need to look for a third party. You need to look for a third party that is not Republican, that is not Democratic, but that is a completely 100% American party. Period. There is no other way to end these genocides and these war crimes. And if you do want to do me a favor as an American Muslim, if you feel sympathy that your tax dollars have destroyed the lives of millions of Muslims all over the world for the last 2 decades, and you want to do something about it, then kindly, for God's sake, it's about time to start indicting, to start convicting these American presidents and these American political parties and these American congressmen and these American congresswomen who have been categorically standing by the orchestration of this genocide, who have given complete immunity to war criminals and to war crimes. You want to do us a favor? Kindly start a third political party. Give the world an alternative to the war crimes emanating out of the White House. Kindly give this White House to a third party that will not abuse its power, that will not sell its soul to the highest bidder, that will do what the US Constitution says, what the American people want, what the American people need. Kindly convict your war criminals. You have a list of presidents who have committed serious, heinous war atrocities all over the world, mostly against the Muslims. Kindly put them in the court of law. You want to do us a favor? I am not impressed with Mamdani. I don't care if you elected Mamdani. It's not going to make any difference. In United Kingdom, there are quite a few Muslim parliamentarians sitting in their assemblies. But despite their campaigning, despite their concerns, UK did not stop funding the genocide in Gaza. You have to change the system. You have to end the two-party system. There is no other way. Ilhan and Rashida tried and tried and tried, and nothing worked. What is Mamdani going to do? He can't do anything. He belongs to a party that committed, that launched and maintained this genocide in Gaza. What do you think he's going to do? So don't tell me that you're doing me a favor by electing a Muslim as the mayor of New York. It's not going to make any difference because he belongs to a party that committed the genocide in Gaza. Both the Republicans and the Democrats have Islamophobia, even though the Democrats say they do not have it by choosing, cherry-picking Muslim candidates. They do have it. What happened in the last 2 years is an open and shut case of Islamophobia. How can you refute this? Tell me how you can refute this. Your tax money was used to kill more than 60,000 innocent civilians in Gaza. Your bombs, your arms were used. And you think by electing a Muslim to a political party that committed this genocide, you can whitewash everything? You're doing the Muslims of the world a favor? This is not a favor. This is just reinstatement of the war criminals under a mask with a new plastic surgery mediated face. This is all optics. The same deep state, the same stinking deep state is still owning and running everything in US. You are not in control. You never were. And if you want to take control, you have to get rid of the war criminals out of the White House. And you have to form a third party. You have to make sure that third party gets elected. And you have to start that by indicting, by convicting each and every president who has committed a genocide. That is the first step. The day you do that, that day I'm going to say, yes, you do care. And you do want peace. And you do feel bad when American dollars are used, American bombs are used to kill little children in Gaza. Bye-bye.